All right. Here we go, guys and gals. And boogity, boogity, boogity. Let's go racing, drivers.
And we're live here for the Loose Wheel podcast, or at least Loose Wheel show. Season 2 episode, I think it's 37. Yeah, it is 37. I did not update the document. Andrew Hazlett, Ethan Ignatowski here with
up,
you.
Everybody?
As always, we are rolling in to another episode, Ethan. Yep. How are we doing?
Doing good. Happy to be back in the studio. We got a lot to talk about today.
Indeed. So,
And now for last week's race reviews.
Watkins Glen. Big fan of Watkins Glen racing there. Connor Zilich, he won the Xfinity race on debut. First driver to do that since Ty Gibbs. And he won pole and won on debut. First driver to do that ever in any national series. That's really cool. But, however, I am getting something from my bag because the Xfinity series, the back half of the field, just decided to not drive the smartest. So they get the Chicken Award. Chicken Award for just not driving well. They crashed like 5 times. The crew chief for Connor Zilich was like, "This is unacceptable." It was not very good. But anyway, we are going into the main appetizer, or the main dish for Watkins Glen. The Cup race. Lap 1 incident. Bell, Blaney, and Hamlin were involved in the bus stop. 3 playoff contenders. Hamlin lost a lap. He eventually got it back. Bell stayed on the lead lap, and he ran nowhere all day. And Brian Blaney, they towed him back, and they said, "No, you can't race because we towed you back." So I don't know what NASCAR was doing there, but yeah, that's kind of weird. So that big playoff implications early, as I mentioned there. Chastain, he leads early. He wasn't a playoff driver. And then how the strategy works at road courses is all the guys who don't want stage points, they pit, and all the guys who want stage points stay out. So it wasn't really how the order was running, but 8 guys in the playoffs got stage points. Truex won the stage, then Bowman, Briscoe, Suarez, Cindric, Elliott, Reddick, and Larson, and then Jones and Hemrick rounded out the top 10. Hamlin got the free pass there, and then Chastain got the lead from that. So, yeah. And then Reddick, he had a spin in the back, no caution. And then Suarez spun, and then most cars pit. That ended stage 2, I do believe. Yeah, it did end stage 2. And that had a lot of guys who didn't want to stayed out because how the caution works. It's weird. I don't like it. Nobody does. Anyway, so your stage winner was Chastain, followed by SVG, Logano, who had locked himself in. And then you had the playoff drivers of Gibbs, Byron, Burton, Briscoe, Bowman, and then the non-playoff driver of Preece, and then Denny Hamlin rounded out the top 10. So on the main strategy, after the caution cars pitted, your main strategy leaders were McDowell, LaJoy, and Juan Pablo Montoya. Shout out Juan Pablo. Ethan's nodding.
That's my guy.
Finally, we got Ethan to speak. I don't know however many minutes we're in here, but
I'm doing research.
I don't know what he's researching. Hopefully not pick points on me.
No, never.
Good. Anyway, moving forward. On the main strategy, you had Chastain, SVG, Logano, Briscoe were your leaders. Hamlin, he had a crash where he was 3 wide with the 5 and the 6 cars. This just proves Ethan, and how bad his Atlanta strategy was. And now he has bad race at Watkins Glen. He's under the cut line. He's looking to get eliminated. Yeah. So,
I mean, it's a tough situation.
It's a tough situation. We'll see what he can do. We'll see what he can do.
More pressure on you.
Yeah.
Too much under effort. Too much under pressure. You know.
Shout out Walter Koster. Anyway, Logano pits at this point. Chris Buescher inherited the lead, and then cars were pitting, and then Austin Dillon spun a pitting bell. That brought out a caution. And then we had a split strategy. You had Logano, Smith, Larson, Keselowski, and Suarez. They were on an alternate save gas strategy that they were in the lead. And then you had Buescher, Hocevar, SVG, Chastain, and McDowell. They're on the go hard strategy. We can make it to the end. No worries.
Go big or go home.
Yeah. Eventually, 3 of the guys that were on the alternate save gas strategy pit, and that being Smith, Larson, and Suarez. And then Buescher passes Logano, and then Harrison Burton had debris coming off his car that caused a caution. And then we had another caution where William Byron was on top of Brad Keselowski. So that took out both cars out of contention. They still ran, they still finished, but not the finish that they deserved. Byron was running just outside the top
finish
5.
That would have helped them in the playoffs.
Yeah,
that's the biggest thing.
Yeah, playoff points huge. Reddick had us on the next restart. Reddick spins after four wide racing of others, brought out a caution, and then we're into overtime at this point. Going into turn 1, SVG just taps the 17 and gets the lead. Fair racing. And then on the white flag, Buescher, he taps just like he did. SVG did to him. Taps SVG in the carousel, final lap, he gets the lead.
It was an amazing ending.
Amazing ending. 8 out of 10 race. Go watch it if you haven't watched it.
Go watch the final laps.
The final laps. Shades of 2012, where something similar happened between Marcus Ambrose and Brad Keselowski. Chris Buescher, I go back to Kansas, I go back to Darlington, Ethan, where in Kansas he lost by an inch, and where Darlington he got walled. If he converts one of those wins, he's in the playoffs, and he's advanced to the next round. But we're sitting here saying, oh, this was an underdog win. Not guy outside the playoffs wins.
Yeah.
That's interesting. Another interesting stat is this is the first time in any National Series race in the playoffs where there were no playoff drivers in the top 5.
Really?
Yeah. All right.
Huh.
And now we're going to talk about the bubble. We talked about it a little bit earlier, but now we're going to talk about it further in the fact that William Byron, he's at 25 points above the cut line. He's feeling fairly solid. And then it goes to Briscoe and Ty Gibbs. They're only 6 points above. Those stage points I mentioned for the both of them, huge. Stage points are what makes guys advance and keeps guys from advancing. Because the first guy out, Denny Hamlin, he's had 1 stage point this playoffs. And where Briscoe and Gibbs, they had it both in this race, more than 1. That's putting them above Hamlin. This is just stage points, because there's going to be like a 1-point gap between someone or a 0-point gap, and those stage points are going to be breaking the tie.
Well, Denny will be happy that he's going to a track that he's quite good at.
Yeah, he's quite good at Bristol. Rounding out the bubble, Brad Keselowski, as I mentioned, he's 12 points back after his incident. Martin Truex Jr. 14 back, and Harrison Burton 20 back, as expected for Burton. Moving on to Nashville IndyCar finale. So you had 2 drivers.
You got 3 drivers.
Well, one was eliminated at the start of the race, Scott McLaughlin. He was trying to get Alex Palou to do dangerous things.
He was trying to lock Alex Palou into a porta potty.
Yeah.
It did not work. So He was eliminated.
Yeah.
I mean, I thought that strategy was really foolproof. You know, if you lock him in the porta potty, like, you got a shot.
Yeah, you
But
do.
Pelot started the race, which mathematically eliminated Scotty Mack from winning the title.
Yeah. And it turned out how the racing was. If
how
he didn't
IndyCar
have that
runs.
penalty at St. Petersburg, he would have won the championship.
Yeah. That's
So
crazy.
that's huge. That push to pass thing that we were talking about at the start of the year wound up costing.
What happened in round 1 affected
Yeah.
round whatever.
17.
17.
18.
Yeah. So
You have an extra race this
you
year.
got to
for-
be,
for-
it just shows you got to be on top of your stuff all
Mm-hmm.
season long. You can't do something dumb round 1. It'll come around and bite you in 18, 17, whatever round it was. And
Mhm.
that's the title decider.
Yeah. It's just how it is. And then, but after qualifying, Will Power, he started 4th. Solid position. Alex Palou, rather, 24th. But that's not how it would end. Will Power, he started falling through the field early. And then lap 13, it all became undone. That's what happened. His seat belts were loose, had to pit, had to get that situated. He lost laps. That took him out of contention.
I mean, hugely out of contention. Spoiler. Sure.
Yeah.
He didn't even finish second in the standings. That's how far that dropped him. He finished the race in 24th. Scott McLaughlin and Colton Herta finished ahead of him, and this was a guy that could have won the whole thing. So, yeah, obviously you can't have loose seatbelts. You need to come into the pits and get that fixed. That's just like obviously a safety issue.
Yeah.
But again, something that was avoidable cost another driver a chance at winning the title.
Yeah. Yeah. Will Power, it was unfortunate because I would have liked to see the battle at least go into
Go throughout the race.
the race. But Alex Palou, back-to-back champion, first in Dario Franchitti. So shout out him. He's a very great driver. You can argue there is a case for, I'm not saying that he is, I'm saying you can argue that he is the best open-wheel driver right now. I'm saying you can argue it because the way he's dominated a spec series these last 2 years, it's beyond amazing. I know, Ethan, you disagree with that. Max Verstappen has done a lot of great things. Don't get me wrong.
I would say he dominated. Like, he won, but was it domination this year? This year, I would definitely say it wasn't domination. The title fight went into last race. If Will Power didn't have that seatbelt issue, an issue that's not caused by Will Power's driving ability or anything like that, then Alex Palou might not be champion.
I think you would be because I think Palou did wind up finishing in the top 10.
He finished 11th.
11th. And
But
Power
still,
would
it
have had to
been,
win.
It would have been marginal. you
Yeah,
know? I
yeah.
don't think you can win marginally and then turn around and say it was domination.
That's
just
fair.
me, though.
But he did. I will say last year he dominated.
Last year he did
You
dominate.
can't take that away from him.
No, you can't take that away from him. But I think you're getting slightly ahead of yourself.
Regardless, Palou is still a great driver. You can't argue
Can't
against
take anything
that.
away from him. He's 3-time champion, first double champion since the most Italian Scotsman of all time. Dario
Franchitti.
I don't even know how to say his last name.
It's bad when I can
Franchetti?
pronounce Franchitti.
Looks like it should be Franchetti though.
Anyway,
George Dario Marino Franchitti.
Palou in his five-year IndyCar career won 3 of the 5 championships.
That's
That's
crazy.
I just realized that.
That's crazy.
And one of those was in a Dale Coyne car, which
is even crazier.
So that's 3 of 4 Ganassi. So anyway, Kirkwood, he led early. Felix Rosenquist, he brought out a caution mid-cycle that flips the field. Newgarden to lead. Only 13 cars are on the lead lap. Award stays out where everyone pits on an Ericsson caution later. Marcus Ericsson, he probably had the worst year you could have. He took an Andretti car to 15th place. They're gonna have to figure something out there. That wasn't very good. But yeah.
Yeah, it's some bad luck along the way though.
Yeah. At this point, Herta to P2, and eventually that becomes the lead when Power pits. And I thought we might have a fuel race where you had Kirkwood, Malukas, Palou, Pato, and Armstrong stay out as the rest come in around 20 to go. But then Kirkwood pits and comes out behind Herta and Armstrong. Herta passes Armstrong at this point. And then Pato and Herta, they pass Palou. And then Malukas pits, he falls down to 9th. Oh, and then while passing the lap car, Stingray robbed. Award goes high, where Herta, he goes low, gets the lead. More efficient way to roll around the racetrack. Quite simply that. And Herta wins Palou's champion. 7.5 out of 10. Good race. Nothing great. This is why IndyCar, that race showed why IndyCar stays or has to have ovals. Like what I've seen is you can't get rid of ovals, because a few years ago it was like 4 oval races in the year. But now it's grown to a healthy amount, and IndyCar's at a great spot right now with ovals.
I think one of the best things about IndyCar, maybe the best thing overall, is that you got, sure, street races and road races are similar enough, but you got 3 different types of tracks on the calendar.
Well, you could argue 4. 2 different types of ovals. You have the short ovals like Gateway and Iowa, and then you have Indianapolis, and when Texas was on the schedule, these super speedways where you're going 225 on the regular. So,
yeah, I think that's
you
one
could
of the best
argue
things
that
about the series.
Yeah.
Yeah. Moving on, hop, skip, and a jump across the ocean. Formula One was racing in Azerbaijan, Baku street circuit. I thought it was a pretty good race. I'm going to be doing the Formula One review a little bit differently than what we normally do. Normally, just lap blah 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 this happened, lap blah 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 that happened. I'm gonna experiment here. It might not go great, but I'm gonna experiment here. Do more of a storyline based recap. It's still gonna be lap blah 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 this happened, but there's gonna be hopefully more cohesion to it. So I think the first thing you have to talk about when talking about the Azerbaijan race is that McLaren had the best day they could. Oscar Piastri, he was starting in second. He was starting on the medium tires. Lando Norris, he was starting way back in 16th on hards. Second and 16th, you're thinking, okay, how great can this day really be? Oscar, he gets a podium. Lando, who knows? But both drivers, just amazing races from both of them. At the start, Oscar, very crucially, held on to second place. Lando, who starts have been his kryptonite, he had the best start he's had all season. Lando Norris going into Azerbaijan was the only driver to not gain a single position on lap 1. Even Logan Sargent had gained positions on lap 1. Lando Norris had not gained a singular position on lap 1 all season. This is the guy that's second in the driver's standings. I give Lando all the praise he deserves, but I'll also say, that's insane. How do you not gain a singular position on lap 1 throughout the entire season? Well, Baku, he did it. Made 2 moves on the first lap. Passed Yuki Tsunoda a couple laps later. Eventually got Oliver Behrman. He was rolling early on in the race, which has been his weakness recently. He was rolling, and Oscar was rolling too. He set the fastest lap on the 5th lap of the race. He was fighting for the lead. He was also getting pressure from Sergio Perez behind, though. So when Oscar pit on lap 16 for hard tires, it was crucial that Lando was in front of Sergio Perez, who pit earlier, and Lando was able to slow down Sergio just enough that, well, Sergio did pass Lando on the straight. Lando held Perez up enough that Oscar was able to avoid the undercut. Super important in the race. Just a few laps later on lap 20, Oscar performed one of the craziest dive bombs I've seen in a while, passing Leclerc into turn 1 for the lead. Charles didn't even try to defend it, Andrew. Like, that's how far back Piastri was. Charles was just like, yeah, I'll take the normal racing line here. There's no way Piastri can dive bomb me. But he did. He got the lead on that. And he held it. For 8 laps, he was 8 laps, 9 laps, amazing pace. Pace started to fall back. And that's when Oscar had to start impressing in a different way. Lap 29, 31, 33. So essentially every other lap, Leclerc gave Oscar a great run into turn 1, trying to get that position back. Oscar did exactly what he needed to do to defend. He held Leclerc off through the 30s into the 40s, and basically just he defended like a lion, Andrew.
Why a lion? Why not a tiger?
Because that's what Fernando Alonso said to tell Esteban when he was leading in Hungary a few years back. So that's why. But anyway, like I said, Piastri, he was defending absolutely amazing. And don't forget about Lando. He made it 38 laps on those hard tires. An insane stint. And the reason he stayed out so long is because he needed to build a gap on those dead tires. Like, 38 laps, that's way too long. But he was still building a gap over Fernando Alonso, and that was important so that when he pit, he didn't come out behind Fernando. Lando, it worked to perfection, came out in front of Alonso, was able to pass Max, and after Sergio Perez and Carlos Sainz crashed up ahead on the penultimate lap of the race, that promoted Lando up to 4th, and Piastri, who was defending all day, won the race. So 1st and 4th, starting 2nd and 16th, that's a very good result for McLaren, and it's extra important because McLaren are now leading the Constructors' Championship, Andrew. They have passed Red Bull. This is the first time since like 2012, I think, that McLaren has led the Constructors' Championship. So their long, winding road from top-tier team to midfield and bottom feeders and all back up again. They haven't won the championship yet, but I think it's safe to say that they've completed their arc. They are finally the top team, one of the top teams in Formula One now. So that was the main storyline, main takeaway from Azerbaijan. Secondary storyline to that, I would say, was Sergio Perez finally had a better race than Max Verstappen, but had nothing to show for it. Sergio, he outqualified Max, looked better pretty much all weekend, jumped Carlos Sainz on lap 1 for 3rd place. And while Max gained a position on lap 1 as well, he was struggling. He was complaining about the front grip on the car, whereas that didn't seem to affect Sergio at all. Max, he couldn't get past Lando Norris. George Russell eventually passed him. And then, like I said earlier, Lando passed Max again later on in the race. Sergio was trying to make it a 3-horse race for the lead. He was having the race of the season for him. Like, we haven't seen this level of Sergio Perez in a very long time. Once Piastri eventually built a gap to Leclerc around, late 40s lap-wise, Sergio was trying to attack Leclerc for second. Like, we were about to have a Sergio Perez second place. Didn't work out that way. Carlos Sainz was actually able to pass Sergio for 3rd, and then that's when things got really, really bad for Sergio. So Carlos passed him into turn 1, and you know how in Baku it's a short little bit before you go into turn 2?
Yeah, short shoot.
Short shoot to turn 2. Well, Carlos, he fended off Perez back into turn 2, and then they made contact, went into the barriers, both of the races were over. But what's crazy is kind of how it happened, because both drivers, their wheels were straight as an arrow, but Carlos he was on the outside. He kind of drifted across the track to the left, and Perez was on the inside. He kind of drifted across the track to the right, and they kind of met, even though both of their wheels were straight ahead. Like, I don't know if there was an alignment issue or something, because they're both going straight on the steering wheel, but they collide and go into the wall. So Sergio Perez's best race in a long time. First time he's had a better race than Max in probably since Baku last year, to be honest. And he has absolutely nothing to show for it. This race would have done so much for Sergio's just mental state, and I'm sure it still did, because he knows now that he can still put in those drives. But to not be able to capitalize on it really, really sucks for the guy.
Mm-hmm.
I feel bad for him for that. And then just a couple quick notes of other important things that happened in the race. Colapinto and Oliver Behrman, they both were very impressive this weekend. Colapinto, he out-qualified Alex Albon in his second ever start, which is something that Logan Sargent could never do. And Behrman, he out-qualified Nico Hülkenberg by, I believe it was 3 positions, might have been 2, but he put in a great qualifying performance as well. And then during the race, both of those guys at times were ahead of their much more experienced veteran teammates. Colapinto and Albon, they even had to do a bit of a position swap. They were on alternate strategies, so made sense. But, like Colapinto, he never lost that position because he lost a battle to Albon. Colapinto had an amazing race. Behrman was ahead of Hülkenberg for a while, and because of a mistake that Hülkenberg made at the end of the race, Hülkenberg made a rookie mistake, not Behrman. Hülkenberg dropped behind Oliver Behrman. Behrman, of course, then was in front of Nico Hülkenberg. So both of the rookies, very impressive.
Man, could Hülkenberg bear it?
Stop it. No, that's terrible. Okay. So yeah, those 2 rookies, they finished 8th and 9th. Lewis Hamilton, he started at the very back of the grid, flew through the field to 9th. He was kind of battling with those guys. Oliver Behrman, he did a great job holding off Lewis Hamilton for a short while. Obviously, Lewis was in the better car, but great job by Oliver Behrman to hold him off for even the amount that he did. And then Yuki Tsunoda and Lance Stroll were the retirements in the race. They made contact on lap 1. Lance kind of punched a giant hole into Yuki's side pod. For anyone kind of thinking about how to make F1 car aerodynamics even better, a giant hole in the side pod is not a good strategy. Lance Stroll was trying to experiment by doing it onto Yuki. Didn't work out. Yuki retired shortly after because his pace just kept dropping and dropping. And Lance Stroll, he ended up retiring way later in the race, but he retired as well. So top 10 was Piastri, Leclerc, Russell, Norris, Verstappen, Alonso, Albon, Colapinto, Hamilton, and Oliver Behrman rounding out the top 10. Very good race. I didn't watch it at the time, like live, because I was not going to wake up at 4 a.m. and to kind of rush to get my notes down for the show. I watched the race on 2x speed, so I can't give like a perfect number rating on it, but it was a very solid race. 7.5 out of 10 maybe. I don't know. I enjoyed watching it, even though I didn't actually like watch it.
Mm-hmm. Quickly, I want to go over to Fuji. A couple things happened. In WEC, Fuji, the 6 Porsche Penske Motorsport won in Hypercar. They are the first team to win twice in Hypercar this year. And with a second place, Manthai Pure Racing in LMGT3, they have won the championship, clinched it a race early.
Good for them.
With 2 firsts, 3 seconds and a third, and then they also have 10th in there.
You know, I'm proud for them because I would pick them so much in pick points.
But you did not get a point for them finishing
did
second
not.
because I did pick the winner. Vista AF Course, the Ferrari. They become the 4th manufacturer to win alongside Porsche, BMW, and Aston Martin. So there you go. Now, into the news.
And now for the news.
Ethan, let's talk about it.
All right, I'll start off with F1 news. So, Alpine and Honda, they are in a procedural breach of power unit cost cap. What in the world does that mean? Well, simply put, neither have exceeded the cost cap, but they've been spending a lot of money. They are very close to breaching it. Essentially, the regulations have a spending limit of $140.4 million, and they've spent like in the high 130s, and that money is supposed to be spent throughout the 23 races, you know? So it's not huge, but they will probably get fined, as when this has previously happened to Aston Martin and Williams, they were fined, but it's not like some crazy harsh penalty. I don't know. It's not a huge deal, but there will be a punishment for it. I don't fully understand the entire issue because they didn't overspend. Like, if you don't overspend, it shouldn't really matter how you spread that money out across all 23 races. You know, if you want to exist with $5 million left in the budget the last 5 races, like, I don't see what the issue is. Maybe I don't understand the issue. I don't know. That's because that's what seems to be the issue. I don't know. The cost cap and all this, it's just so much stuff. It's just so much information that no one understands. I wish, like, Andrew, we were talking about how we wish that the FIA would make rule changes more clear. This is what I wish the FIA would make more clear. What exactly did they do? What does a procedural breach even mean? Like, they spent the money in a way that's not allowed, but they didn't overspend. I don't know, man. Free Alpine, free Honda. That's my opinion on that. Moving on to the next bit of news. Just a quick hit here. The rookie sprint race at the end of the season is increasingly likely. Now, if you are unfamiliar, what that means is, like, after the season finale in Abu Dhabi, the teams would put a rookie driver in one of their cars, and it would kind of be, I believe it would be a 10-man, not a whole 20 car, but 10-car sprint race with, like, F2 drivers, F3 drivers that haven't made their F1 debut yet, or at least haven't raced in many F1 races. Like, the details will get hammered out before an official announcement is made, but I really like that this at least looks like it's going to happen. I think it's a lot of fun. Gives us a look at these young drivers that we hype up so much in actual F1 machinery. So I think that'll be a lot of fun. And then next up, we got 2 pieces of kind of driver moving around news. Red Bull, according to Ted Kravitz, who spoke to Helmut Marko, are going to announce the second RB Visa Cash App driver after Singapore. And we know that Yuki Tsunoda is under contract with that team.
Right.
Daniel Ricciardo, the current driver in that other car, is not. And Liam Lawson, I mean, he's been promised that seat. He deserves that seat. Daniel Ricciardo, he had a disappointing weekend in Azerbaijan. Finished 13th. Had a chance to battle those guys that I talked about earlier, the Haas's and the Williams, but he just couldn't do it. I think that it's kind of... I wonder if it means anything that after what was a little bit of a disappointing weekend for Ricciardo, that Helmut is saying we're going to announce the driver for next year soon.
Mm-hmm.
I think it could be. I think it very well could be. And as we talked about before, Liam Lawson is beyond deserving of that seat. Like, you look at what he did filling in for Daniel Ricciardo last year, he proved that he's worthy, whereas all Ricciardo is proving is that his time is past. He had a great run in F1, 8-time race winner, but, the fries in the bag at this point.
Yeah, he doesn't have it anymore.
Yeah. It's unfortunate. Like, everyone loves Daniel Ricciardo, and for good reason, but it's okay to admit that it's no longer his time anymore. And I hope that that's what Red Bull decides to do for their second team. Because the point of that team is to develop young drivers that will eventually move up to the main Red Bull team. What's the point of having a 30-something-year-old driver in there who's already proven who he is?
Mm-hmm.
Get Liam Lawson in there. And I think that is what's going to happen. I think that's the direction that they're going to go. I don't know, Andrew, do you have any thoughts on which direction they'll go?
They should go to Lawson.
They should go.
Or at least Isaac Hadjar would be a respectable choice, but not my first pick.
Yeah, I'm actually kind of glad you mentioned Isaac Hadjar because he's fallen to second in the F2 standings now, but I believe it's going to be a race to the end between him and Gabriel Bortoleto. Isaac Hadjar, super young, super good talent. He is just 19, like, he's our age, and dude's fighting for an F2 championship. He's got the results to back it up. Didn't finish great. I mean, he finished 4th in Formula 3, so it wasn't like a terrible year. But then, come over to F2, first season, got 1 podium. But this year, second season, and, sometimes it takes a driver 2 seasons to get kind of acclimated to a series. He's gotten acclimated now, and he's just been amazing. He's won, let's see, won 4 races. I think that's the most of anyone. And it's going to be a fight between him and Gabriel Bortoleto, who we are talking about right now. Because we've talked a little bit about who's going to be in that Sauber. Valtteri Bottas is an option. Teo Porcher is an option. Gabriel Bortoleto is an option, like I said, now leading in F2. He's got 2 wins on the year, 3 seconds to go alongside that. Also just 19 years old. Also, this is his rookie season in F2 compared to Hadjar, who it's his second, but
very impressive rookie season.
Very impressive. He also won F3 last year in what was his rookie season in F3. So he might win the two series below Formula 1. He might win them in back-to-back years, which would be very impressive. He kind of seems to be becoming the favorite for that seat, that second Sauber seat, Audi seat, whatever you want to call it, alongside Nico Hülkenberg for next year. But Andrew, a new challenger has entered the arena because Williams want Franco Colapinto on the grid next year. And Sauber, they're open to it. They are open to the idea. James Vowles, Williams' team principal, this is a quote, "In 2 races, he showed the world he's deserving of a place in Formula 1. So I have always been a firm believer that if you let good drivers race. So we'll see if we can find a way of working with Audi in that circumstance. From the horse's mouth himself, he's trying to get Franco Colapinto into that seat. He wants to work out an arrangement so that Franco Colapinto will still be in the Williams family even if he's racing for Audi. So kind of similar to when, we've seen this before. Like George Russell, he was in the Mercedes family when he raced for Williams. So this type of stuff, it's happened before. But I don't get it in this circumstance. Because Franco Colapinto, yeah, he's shown over 2 races that he's a very good driver. But I'm not calling Franco Colapinto a bad driver. But we've had bad drivers have a stretch of good races, even early on in their career. Nick DeVries, who after receiving a Formula One seat, proved to be a terrible Formula One driver. The reason he got that seat is because he had one amazing fill-in race, like
Right.
just a couple of good races here and there. I don't think that's enough to go off of. You got Gabriel Bortoleto, who is in the same championship as Franco Colapinto, and outscoring him by, let's see, quick math,
A lot.
like 70 points. Why would you go with that guy over Bortoleto? And I understand Colapinto brings in money to a team because of his Argentinian sponsorships, but I'm sure Gabriel Bortoleto has some very nice sponsorship money of his own. I mean, he's Brazilian. Brazilians go crazy for F1. I'm sure that there are Brazilian companies that are willing to back him. That's the way Formula One works sometimes. You
Yeah.
have to have companies from your home country back you. And I don't think that's the differentiating factor between Colapinto and Bortoleto. So Audi, Sauber, just make the right move. Just make the right move. It's Gabriel Bortoleto, it's Teo Porcher. It's one of them.
Yeah.
I don't think Colapinto's a bad driver, but I don't think he deserves a seat.
Yeah.
Lastly, McLaren, they just keep causing drama. Now it's their rear wing. Something that helped Oscar Piastri win in Baku was the rear wing flexed in a certain way that essentially allowed him to have mini DRS. There was a small gap in the wing, which, of course, it was nowhere near as potent as regular DRS, but it definitely played a role in being able to hold off Leclerc. On the straights, the way it flexed, air would go through, acting as in a mini DRS. Now, this doesn't appear to break any regulation, but it's dancing around the line because rear wings, they have 12 sensors on them that can kind of go off if something is awry, I guess you could say. If those sensors aren't being tripped or anything, then the way I understand it, it should be legal. Again, I'm not the FIA. I don't know exactly, but that's the way I understand it. So McLaren, they keep causing drama, but they seem to be just skirting around the edges of the rules. And honestly, that's just what the top teams do. So
Yeah.
shout out to McLaren. They are innovating.
Yeah, I do feel that this could become a new rule where you can't do this.
Yeah.
McLaren writing a rule into the rule book,
Yeah.
so to speak. But yeah.
But that's all for Formula One news. On to IndyCar, Andrew.
Yep. No NASCAR news this week. Nothing really happened of note. Sorry. Anyway, IndyCar, Callum Ilott. He's the first known Prema IndyCar driver. Will be driving either the 83 or the 90 for Prema. They're the Prema Power Team, as they call themselves. A junior Formula team in Formula 2, Formula 3, Formula whatever. I don't even know.
All the formulas.
Except for Formula 1. But
True.
powerhouse team. They are the best. Now they've
Except
dip-
for this year.
they dipped their toes in WEC recently with Iron Lynx, I believe, if I can remember everything right. And now they're going into IndyCar. It's going to be an interesting team. Callum Ilott, he's an experienced driver. He's done two and some change seasons.
Yeah.
He's a former Prema driver. So, yeah, this move made a lot of sense. Ilott is a good driver.
Very good driver.
Solid. He took the Juncos into the top 15 a few years ago when he was driving that somewhere around the top 15.
Yeah.
I think into the top 12, I want to say, if I'm right. I remember right. Oh, 16th. I was not as good as I thought he did. But he did have in his second year, he started and ended the year with a 5th place finish.
Yeah.
So he can do it. He is a solid driver, and I think maybe he might be a solid. I don't think he's a race winner yet, just not because I don't think Premo out of the box will be fast. They'll be solid, but yeah, I think this is a good fit. You have the experience in 2 ways, as I mentioned, in the series and in the team.
Yeah.
So this frees up Prema to go get whoever. They can get a rookie. They can get another experienced driver. They can get someone who they've worked with. They can go with someone else. So Prema is wide open. Meyer Shank. In silly season news, they are confirming new multi-year Felix Rosenquist extension. Felix Rosenquist, great results on the team. At times this year, he was running in the top 10 in the standings, fell off to 12th, which is the team's best. Their previous best was 13th with Jack Harvey in 2021. But he got the team's second or third best result this year. Tied for third, because I actually scratched that because Thermal Club is an exhibition race and I can't do math. But he did solid racing. He got a pole, was fast.
A few top 5s.
Yeah, top 5s. He had a streak of 5 top 10s in a row to start the year. He only had 2 the rest of the year, but he showed that he can do it.
Yeah, and he finished just outside the top 10 a couple times as well. He had a solid year.
And then Shank was improving, probably with Ganassi Alliance instead of Andretti Alliance. That's going to take them a step further, and I think that pairing could sneak in to a race win next year.
Hot take, okay.
I think it's very possible if everything goes their way, they can do it.
And now for next week's race previews.
All right. Into the previews. Bristol, Saturday night, short track racing. You've got your driver changes. You've got Casgrau on the 15, the Meat and Bone car, the 16 of
what?
Meat and Bone. It is a butcher shop.
I
Googled this because I wanted to know what they were, and then I got an ad for them later. 16 AJ Allmendinger, and then 66 MVM's car. Josh Bilicki with Arby's sponsorship.
They have the meat site here.
All these the drivers that changing, 2 of them are bringing meat related sponsors. So yeah, as always, I give my 5 guys to watch out for. My 5 for Bristol. Kyle Busch, he's won 8 times there. Bristol is a Busch Brothers playground. Kurt Busch, very successful in his day too. Denny Hamlin, he's won 4 times there.
2 in a row.
Wow. Yeah. You also have Brad Keselowski, 3-time winner. And then Joey Logano, 2-time winner. And to round off my 5, Kyle Larson, the driver of the 5. He's won once there. I did leave off Chris Buescher, the most recent race winner. He was one there. But we'll see how my 5 do.
Did Hamlin not go back to... Is Hamlin not the most recent race winner there?
Well, I was talking about race winner in time because Chris Buescher won last week. That's what I was getting at.
Oh, okay.
So, Xfinity Series, a few driver changes. On the 15 car, that's Logan Bearden this week. And the Joe Gibbs All-Star cars, you have noted driver Joe Graff Jr., you have Ryan Truex in the 20. In the Sam Hunt, you have car Jeffrey Earnhardt. He is not the only Earnhardt in the race. Dale Jr. will be driving the 88 for his own team.
I love that so much.
Here's an interesting entry. Austin Green, the guy who's been knocking off top 10s on road courses, he's going to be doing his first oval start for Jordan Anderson. I'm curious to see how they'll do. You have the return of Carson Ware and Garrett Smithy. They'll be driving in the Joey Gase cars. Kyle Weatherman phases back to his normal ride with DGM alongside Josh Bilicki. Stephen Parsons in the 45 Alpha Prime. Don't forget, a few years ago, he took that car to a top 15 run. So look out for him to be surprise underdog. In trucks, you have William Sawalich in the 1, up-and-comer. You have Marco Andretti in the 04, always an interesting entry to watch out for. You have Connor Zilic in the 7. Great driver, as I've noted a lot. Nice Motorsports, they're shaking things up. 41, Connor Mosack. 44, Bailey Curry. 45, Caden Honeycutt. Connor Jones in the 5th Thor Sport, that's the 66. Stephen Parsons, as I mentioned earlier, good at Bristol. He's in that Henderson truck. That team's good at Bristol. Surprise run maybe there. McAnally Hilgeman Racing, they're bringing 4 trucks this week. Jack Wood in their 3rd truck, and Corey Day making his debut in the 81. He's a hot prospect. A lot of people are on this bandwagon. It's his first National Series start. Look out for that truck. He's got 2 more starts coming later. Yeah. In Indianapolis, this is a 6-hour race going from a sprint race for IMSA. Your defending winners are Nick Tandy, Matthew Jaminet in the 6, and your GTP LMP2, Mikkel Jensen, Stephen Thomas for TDS. 79 are in GTD Pro. That team is now dissolved with Jules Gooden, Daniel Giunacadelli. They're all in different places. And 57 for Winward Racing, Russell Ward and Philip Ellis. They're going to be returning, and I think they've gone 3 for 3 in the endurance races so far this year.
There you
Ethan,
go.
You talk about Singapore.
Yeah, so always joke about how there is never anything to preview in F1 because it's the same thing every single week in terms of drivers and all that. But 3rd week in a row that we're talking about a driver change. Kevin Magnussen back in the Haas after serving his race ban. His penalty points have been reset, Andrew. Does that spell danger for the rest of the field?
No.
No, probably not, but it would be funny.
Mm-hmm.
But, I mean, he does have nothing to lose at this point. He's not going to be in F1 after this year. He can just go out and race like crazy. Not that I think he will, but he could. And then a little track update to Singapore. A 4th DRS zone has been added, which I think makes it just the 2nd track to have 4 DRS zones alongside Albert Park in Australia. So this kind of serves as a double DRS zone, as you already have DRS from turn 13 to 14. This kind of extends that zone through 14 and 16. There's a little bit of a kink in the road, which is turn 15, but DRS will go through that. 4 DRS zones. We'll see how it affects the racing. Honestly, who knows? It could be a lot better. It could be a lot worse.
And now for next week's race picks.
But we got pick points, and just racing through that real quick.
I dominated.
We are a lot closer in the standings. I'm still leading 311 to 297, but Andrew did really good last weekend. Almost every single one of his picks hit. Louis Foster gave him 5 points, but I also got 5 points from that. But he got 5 points because he said Oscar Piastri would win, and Oscar Piastri did win. And then Scott McLaughlin, Jack Crawford, Gabriel Bortoletto, the 7 Toyota, and SVG giving him 1 point. You add all that up, he did a lot better than me.
And shout out Viste, of course, getting me 5 points because they won too.
Yeah. So this weekend for Indianapolis GTP, we're both taking Porsches. You're taking the number 6. I'm taking the number 7. And then for LMP2, you're taking the 18. I am taking the 52. The 52 is the new points leader.
I'm taking the 18 car.
Why is that?
Connor Zilic is in the car.
Is he really? Okay. Okay, good to know. You're taking the 23 Heart of Racing for GTD Pro. I am taking the number 1 Paul Miller Racing. They have been much better over their last few races than they were earlier in the season. We're both taking...
I was thinking about going a Mercedes 75 car this week. Has not that Jordan Love driving, but Jordan Love is driving. So,
different Jordan Love.
Yeah, different.
Okay. Not the Jordan Love.
Not the Packers one.
It would be pretty funny if he was. For Singapore, Andrew's predicting the podium will be Chuck Leclerc, Lando Norris, and Carlos Sainz. I think it will be Lando Norris, Oscar Piastri, and Charles Leclerc. The Ferraris are pretty good there, so
yeah, I think back to last year, who won? Some guy named Carlos Sainz.
Yeah. And then we got NASCAR rounding out the picks. Rajah Caruth.
I'm changing that.
Oh, we have a at the buzzer change to Corey Heim. I don't know if I'm gonna allow that. I think the rule is until it's said that your pick counts. But I'll be nice. I'll let you do Corey Heim. That's kind of disrespectful to Mr. Rajah Caruth. But
if Rajah goes out and wins, I look like an idiot. So, it's what it is.
Rajah Caruth, scratch that. Corey Heim is Andrew's pick. Then he's taken Justin Allgaier and Kyle Larson in Xfinity and Cup. I'm taking Christian Eckes, although, I mean, man, I think I should change to Rajah Caruth. What do you think, Andrew?
Do whatever you want.
No, I'll take Christian Eckes still, and then I have Chandler Smith for Xfinity, and then Denny Hamlin, who has won the last 2 races there, including the race earlier this season, the fall race.
You mean the
spring race? This is the fall race.
You're tired.
I am tired. Denny Hamlin, though, whether it was the spring race or the fall race or the whatever race, he won the last one. I think he'll win this time too. Those are our pick points. That was the show. Goodbye.
Goodbye, everyone. Next is Breakdown After Dark, but first I'm going to give you some Russian Roulette by Eric Church.
To me, it looked like he actually lost the wheel.
The wheel for Ross Chastain is still and perfect.
Wheel on the track.
Did you leave the wheel loose?
You picked a fine time to leave me loose, wheel.